All right, Mama, you did your first lesson, and I just want to put out the reality that the teen years are hard. You might love these years because your daughter's asking good questions, but some of you, this is the time when she's pulling away. She's starting to poke at every insecurity that you have. She's got attitude, and depending on what your relationship has looked like before these courses, this can get really tough sometimes. So I want you to remember that God is using it, even if it looks messy. God is using your desire to pursue your daughter. Give this some time. Don't give up. Try to finish all 8 lessons and hang in there. Watch and see what God does, even through the suffering, if she is pushing up against hanging out with you and rolling her eyes or being difficult. Your effort to pursue her heart, to have these intentional dates with her, will make a difference in the long run. Okay, so hang in there. And those of you that are loving this and eating it up, continue, stay the course, be consistent. Once a month, make sure you're pursuing your daughter and having these conversations. But know that these are guides. So if your daughter wants to talk about other things, take advantage. Listen to her. Follow her lead. These teen years, if your daughter is talking to you, that is an enormous gift. And it means that she feels safe and she's trusting you with the insides of her world and the way that she's seeing things. So follow her lead. All that to say, this particular lesson, we're going to continue the conversation about suffering. You know, one of my favorite women who models this beautifully is a woman named Catherine Wolfe. You might know her well, or you maybe have never heard of her, but she was going to be a model. Her and her husband moved to California to pursue his dream to be a lawyer. And while they were newlyweds, she had a massive stroke and ended up changing her whole life. She went through about 6 to 7 years of massive life being flipped upside down. And today, she's probably about 16 to 18 years beyond that, and she is going around sharing her story of suffering, about how all of us have a handicap or disability of some sort, and how all of us have something that God is using to bring empathy in our own stories and towards the stories of others. We often want to know, why did this happen to us? Why does suffering happen in the world? And I want to help you and your daughter reframe that question to, what am I going to do with this suffering? What does God want to do? In fact, Catherine is one of the most amazing women that I know who has gone through a horrific shift in her life, and she thanks God for her suffering. In fact, I've heard her say it's a privilege that God chose her to bear this suffering and to have the ability to share the message that she has today. What if each of us could own our stories and the suffering that happens to us and the things that we go through? What if we could see the gifts that they bring, the things that they birth on the other side? You know, think about giving birth to your daughter. You know, we all have a different story. Some of them were beautiful stories. Some of them came with massive suffering. Just between my sister and I, we had incredibly different birthing experiences. But on the other side, we have these amazing children, and we have the gift of being able to shepherd them. You're going to have the opportunity to tell your daughter your birthing story, her birthing story of coming into this world. And giving birth to a child is such a beautiful example of how suffering can produce life. It produces something on the other side. In fact, our very faith, Jesus dying on the cross, breathes life, resurrected life. In fact, we have to go through suffering often to understand what life we've been given. This is deep and it's heavy, but you're laying a foundation with your daughter for something that's going to grow and God's going to use throughout her life to remind her that we don't have to be victims of our suffering. In fact, the scripture tells us that we are more than conquerors, that because of this suffering, we get to partner with Christ. So be honest, talk about the things you've been experiencing the last month, continue the conversation that you started last month. And as you listen to Catherine Wolfe's story, I think you and your daughter can start to frame and understand why God might have given you the gift of the suffering you have. And if your daughter doesn't have any suffering, I mean, that can actually be the case for many young teens. They just look around, they go, my life is good. Be thankful for that. Thank the Lord for that. But maybe hold other people's stories. Look around at the friends that she has, the community, family members. Maybe use their examples to see how you're seeing something new being birthed through their life. I am so excited that you are having time with your daughter in this way. It's rare, it's a gift, and know that God is going to multiply it in ways beyond what you are even able to imagine for her. And at the end of the day, remember, you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to show up, listen well, and be ready to love on your daughter, to show her that no matter what her story, God is with us. He'll never leave us. He'll never forsake us. And he will carry us through whatever we face.